JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. October 30th, about 3:20 on this fine Wednesday. Talk really quick about the market. Some names I'm looking at, go from there. But take a look. S&P is in the red, was pretty much chopping around for most of the day in the green, slightly red, and then now we're down about 0.2%. Nothing too crazy. Still inside days. Well, inside days relative to what we've had since this chop. So 578 support, 585 uh, resistance. We hit 579, so still right in that range. After the close today, Microsoft and Meta. Tomorrow we get Apple, Amazon. We get PCE data tomorrow. So not sure that's going to move markets too much. The Fed meeting is next week, and the market's applying given 100% probability of a 0.25% rate cut. And of course, we have the election. So a lot of things to get through. A lot of earnings today and some crazy movers. Garmin. Take a look at Reddit. Uh, Monster. I mean, that's a name I looked at, and I've used the platform for a long time, and it's tough for me. I think of Reddit like a online forum, right? I mean, back in the day, the bulletin boards, things like that. So to see it have that phenomenal results, I mean, if you had told me today, I still would not believe you. So you can see that thing going bonkers. But maybe some nice moves after the close, and the market finds some support here, some chop, and possibly we get good earnings from Meta and Microsoft after the close today. And if not tomorrow, then possibly next day with Apple and Amazon, markets could start to work their way over all-time highs. So that's that. And then the 10-year down again, not by much, but some good signs going on that front. So now individual names. So I was on audio. I think it was when I was on audio. When did that news come out about? When did that AK filing come out? I think it was right before I came on audio. But SM Supermicro, their Ernst and Young auditor, resigned. Right? I mean, you rarely. I mean, you see it, but when you see it, it's usually a serious red flag on any firm, especially a company that's multi-billion-dollar market cap. I mean, serious. What was Supermicro? I think was 60 billion at one point. I don't even know what it is right now. It's substantial, right? Let's see if I have it. But when you see something like that happen, and this is in conjunction with all the other stuff that's going on, the Hindenburg short report, the filing being delayed, then the delisting notice that they got from the Nasdaq, which is just it's more formality than anything else, because once you don't file your financials within a certain period that you file the NTK, whatever it is, then eventually they start coming after you, right? So then they'll send that delisting notice, and then you have 60 days, whatever, to become compliant. So all those things is just like a snowball, and then this is just another big block of ice on that snowball that's rolling downhill. So it's still a $20 billion market cap. It now has 20% short interest. Interesting. Shorts are banking. I mean, here's the deal. It still has a product, right? It's hard to take this and then extrapolate to the business where you say, wow, they might lose customers or business, but it's like this is just a financial situation, at least for now, right? Padding the numbers, whatever it might be. But you have to think once a stigma is associated with the company, it might be maybe some customers might be more leery and go with someone else. I don't know. So that's some of the thought process. And I did it before, and I mentioned it a couple months ago with the SEC and all that fun stuff. That I thought Dell was a better play. That it would possibly have it be a tailwind for Dell. So you saw it gapping up, ran up to 131 at the pre-market. I was going to get the calls at the open, and sure enough, what does Dell do? The option market doesn't open on Dell. So they started trading me a couple minutes. By that time I had looked away. And then when I go back, it was fading the open. So I waited, got down to 126. I was watching if the 126 handle held, I was going to get some strikes. I was looking for weeklies, then I was looking for next week's, and then I was going to get the 140s for next week. I'm like, the 145s were, I don't know, 65, 70 cents. So I went and got those. It bounces all the way, and it hit 134 earlier this afternoon. So I locked some of my calls in for over 100%. I'll just hold the rest. Got plenty of time on the strikes. I think this could be one of those scenarios where it puts in a it's puts wind in the sails of Dell for multiple days. Unfortunately, with the earnings after the close today of Microsoft and Meta, and then tomorrow it could put a whole snafu in that. But I think we're gonna have decent earnings after closure. So Google, one of the better reports it's had in recent memory. So I think that all bodes well. So I'll continue to hold Dell. Finally, a nice trade on Dell, and I think 139 is a good spot. You take a look back in July, that was kind of the start of sell-off. At the end of July was 139 is like a gap there. So I think you could get there at least, if not higher. All right, so that's Dell. And then Fiverr, and Fiverr is one of my favorite names over the years. I've traded it on and off quite some time. It went all the way up to 300 and I think it was 320 during the COVID days. Was a big beneficiary of stay at home, right? People looking for to do things at home, and gig economy was it. Fiverr's right in that wheelhouse. And then, COVID went away and the company, they're still doing well, but then they're struggling, right? So, well, not struggling, but the perception is that AI was going to kill them, which makes sense, right? I mean, you can make images now with AI where normally you would order a gig on Fiverr and say, hey, make me this image or logo. Now you can just get that done. Uh, so the thought was that maybe that was going to encroach on their business and their moat. But then on the flip side, that I was posting this I think it was last summer, but as AI starts to come out, now you see the gigs to take advantage of AI coming on Fiverr, and those have exploded. And then their earnings this morning were beat and raised, which they've had so many times. So it's kind of I posted on FinTwit this morning. I wouldn't say it's frustrating or annoying, but it's like it's similar to what happened with Chewy. I was in Chewy calls a couple of quarters ago when it was at 16 bucks. Gaps runs all the way to 20 bucks and then just sells off. And then like 2 quarters later has great earnings, similar earnings, but announces a 2 billion share buyback. I don't know if that was the catalyst, and the stock goes up 40% or whatever. So similar Fiverr, I think it's had better earnings before, and the stock has ran up. Uh, but and then it would in the pre-market and right at the bell, and then it would sell off for the rest of the day and not return to those levels. This one, for some reason, I don't know if it's just because it's the full year guidance. I don't know, but when it got those strikes, when it started to break 30, I was able to lock some in for nearly, I guess, close to 200%. And then, of course, in hindsight, when it got up to near 33, I should have locked some more in. But the more I look, the more I think this is going to head to 35 bucks. So I'll hold the rest of those strikes for that outcome. Really like this name for upside in the coming weeks. After that earnings report, and you start pulling back the chart, and I'm not saying it's going to go back to 2022 levels, 60, 80, 100, but it has opportunity at least. Maybe it gets to 40 bucks, 45. So that's kind of the thought process there. That's Fiverr. Travel Zoo back in the green today. I mean, knock on wood, it's up 67%, up 4%. If pending any crazy sell off here in the last 34 minutes of the day, should hold green. I was looking at December strikes, possibly the 20s and maybe some Marches. I don't know if I'll get them into the close, or maybe I'll wait for support tomorrow because we had that sell off, not the sell off, but yesterday kind of, gave me some pause of adding some more strikes. So I'll probably wait another day before adding more, but still hold a couple more of those 1750s. And then I added those 20s, November 20s. I'll continue to hold those. Peloton actually went up near $7 earlier today and then just faded. Let's see, I didn't even pull up where it is. It's down here at 658. They have earnings tomorrow. I'll just hold my November strikes. I did my little rant this morning. It's one of those turnaround stories, trades less than 1x revenue, new leadership team. It seems like after a couple years of just declines, not only in the stock price, but sentiment, all the issues, recalls, you name it. People dying on the Peloton and the TV show. What was the other one? Someone got ran over by the Peloton and died. So there's a lot of negative publicity as well. But I used to say it back when it was trading much higher and I was a big bull on it. Was the most people who look at Peloton and say it's a zero or whatever, just probably have never used it, right? So I can go on a rant forever, but I'm not going to. So I'll hold those. I'll probably, pending any premium increase, I'll probably hold those into tomorrow, into earnings. Now, speaking of premium increase, here's Roku up. It's up 2.5%. But ironically enough, had on a watch list all this week and end of last week to add some calls for premium build into earnings. I was going to do it Friday, then I was going to do it Monday, then I was going to do it Tuesday. Yesterday, I was staring at the 95s and the 98s and the 100s yesterday, and I'm like, trading at 76 bucks. You start doing the math, and the implied move was 12.5% or whatever. So, but the thing is, it did have a 30% move last year this time. So, the thought was there. I passed, and then sure enough, what happens today? It's up 2%, but all the out of money calls are up 100, 150, 160%. Take a look at the 97 calls. I think actually the 98s, I think at one point were like 29 cents or something. Yes, they're at $1 now. So you're talking, over 200% just on a 2% move on Roku. And this is some of the reasons because the implied move has went up. So now it's at the start of the week when I did the earnings, it was at 12%. And that includes Monday and Tuesday. So taking those 2 days out, it should have been a little less. Maybe it's 11% because I just do the straddle. So that encompasses Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, right? Yeah, so encompasses the entire week, not just into Wednesday, right? So now you look and it's a $12.52 move, which is nearly 15-16% move implied. So some of that, I don't know if that's option moves, but the puts are pretty much flat. I mean, so you take that with a little grain of salt, but you would think they would be down a little more, right? 30% for it, but they're not. So that probably just means a lot of option action. The implied volatility has soared, and that's the premium build I kind of look for when I'm trying to do an earnings trade, that you can get in at the start of the week or the week before, and then get that premium build on the day of or the day before or into the event, lock some in to cover costs, and then ride the rest free, and then hope for a big move. So of course, today will be the day that Roku's going to have the 30% move again, and I'm going to wish I got those calls, but got to have a plan, stick to the plan. If Roku has a great quarter and it starts, I'll revisit tomorrow. Roku has had these moves too intraday. So some of the moves, it gaps a little bit, runs up in the pre-market, and then it just melts higher for the rest of the day. So that's another trade I might take tomorrow if there's good earnings. All right, two other names. Wind flat as a pancake again today. Earnings next week. I was hoping for a 100 break and hold today. It looks like it's not going to happen, so gonna have to revisit tomorrow. SE, another disappointing day after its 3.5-4% sell off yesterday on really nothing. So hopefully, just profit takers finally find a bit. It's done this before, where it's had these big candles back in October, start of October, uh, where it sold off 3-4%, and then it recouped those losses pretty rapidly and then hit new highs. So hopefully that's the case here. I'm trying to think of some of the other names I've been looking at. Dell. Oh, Garmin. Did I mention Garmin? Yeah. Well, I think at the start I did. Garmin, another crazy story. That's a Citron Research short, right? So back when he was throwing out more calls. I call them calls. His shorts, which he said he was going to never do after the GameStop fiasco. He went short Garmin, right? And if you look at Garmin, if you think about what Garmin does, they were, your GPS, right? Cars used to have that little thing that you put in your car that had the screen on it. And then you're like, all of a sudden, it's like, wait a second, my phone does this. So then you're like, why does Garmin, wouldn't you think Garmin gets destroyed? But Garmin was a really good company at just innovating. And, a lot of their business too is in the marine side of it, right? So just a monster story. I remember that stock was 50 bucks, 70, 80. And there's a lot of those stories. I think that's it, folks. We've got 29 minutes to the close. Let's have a great afternoon. Rock and roll.